The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and guest do not necessarily reflect those of this station, the station's network, any other affiliates under this network, or its sponsors. Unless they do, and then we'll totally take credit for them, because this is radio, and that's how we roll.
Here we go.
News, sports, comedy, politics, everything you would expect in a morning show. Faster than the fastest nightmare. Brighter than the dullest dream.
Right here.
Right now. The Morning Show with Uncle Bill. Grab your coffee and hang on. For the next 2 hours, the unexpected will haunt you, entertain you, and drive you absolutely insane. So let's get started. Here's Uncle Bill.
Well, I want to welcome you all. Good morning to the studio audience out here, and good morning to the morning show. Good morning to you from the morning show here on BNNS Radio as we start a brand new week, Monday, the 31st of July, the last you will ever see this day in your life. You'll never see this day again. Hope you make it through the day. Some will, some won't. If you're living in the Chicago area, your chances of making it are pretty slim because, 29 shot over the weekend. A 4-year-old boy was among those that were shot. Folks, when's it going to quit? And, we got that. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about crotch rockets and also today, talk a little bit about schools and the taxes. Well, let's talk about taxes in general, especially for those of us in Illinois that are facing a 32% increase on taxes and driving people out of our state. And California is seceding. At least they're stepping up in that direction. And it looks like it just may happen. At least there's a big push on for that. We could only get so lucky. St. Andreas, do us a favor, will you? All that and more coming up on this edition of The Morning Show right here on BNNS Radio.
Can I bring to the holiest King? And which song can I sing that is fit to praise your majesty? Well, all I have as an offering is a cry before your throne. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai. As I sing, I will proclaim that you are the Almighty. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai. 'Cause it's all I have to bring as an offering. How can I describe your glorious being? And what have you not done for me? And how could I give you less than everything? Well, all I have as an offering is a cry before your throne. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai. As I sing, I will proclaim that you are the Almighty. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai. 'Cause it's all I have to bring as an offering. Well, I spent myself on worthless things, and you forgave me. But still, I want to bring something, even if it's nothing but a cry before your throne. El Shaddai, oh, El Shaddai, yeah. Well, all I to bring as an offering.
The Morning Show with Uncle Bill. Like a strong cup of coffee
strained through your grandmother's sock.
The best part of waking up is... what the is this on BNNS Radio. Uncle Bill would like to apologize in advance for whatever he may say tomorrow. The Morning Show with Uncle Bill on BNNS Radio.
All right, not only am I going to apologize for what I say tomorrow, I'll apologize for what I might say today. You know, I started a new series today on Confessing Moments, which is 10:30 every morning here on BNNS Radio, with the exception of Wednesdays when it airs at 10 o'clock. But it's about radical Christianity. And there's a lot of talk in the news today about radicals, and we talk about the liberals being on the left and their radicalism and so on and so forth. Well, we're talking this week about radical Christianity. So maybe being radical isn't quite so bad, but anyway, I'm not a radical. Don't ever plan to be a radical, although I'm pretty outspoken on my beliefs and what I feel and all that kind of stuff. And you ain't never going to change my mind about that. And right now in Belvidere, we are opening with 62 degrees this morning. Feels like 62 as the winds are nil. They're none. No wind. Calm. 90% humidity, which is not good. A few broken clouds in the skies, but for the most part, lots of sunshine. High today, 82 degrees and 61 overnight. And it looks like it's going to start today and tomorrow and Wednesday. It looks to be like a fairly good beginning of the week. And then we start to downturn, which is actually good. Excuse me. It actually looks like it's going to be good, pretty good for Belvidere, because on Tuesday, the 8th of August, is the beginning of the Boone County Fair. And, of course, when the weather takes a downturn for the week, it looks pretty promising. So they're looking for it to be in the mid-70s to upper 70s, which is excellent fair weather. And excellent fair weather. Not fair meaning the weather's going to be fair, but the fair meaning lots of entertainment, fun, rides, and so on and so forth. That begins next Tuesday. A week from tomorrow is the Boone County Fair, and throughout this week, we will be telling you more about the Boone County Fair and some of the events that are going on this year. The headliner is Scott McCreery, winner of season 10 of American Idol, will be there. And so get your tickets now because they go fast. Before I get into the tricks of today's show, bringing Craig and Big D in here this morning, I thought I would run across, share with you a little bit I found. You know, like Jay Leno and David Letterman and some of those guys, they used to always bring out funny newspaper headlines and want ads that they find in the newspapers and so forth. Well, I'm going to do that for this week's fun edition. And like I said, I told you before that we are going to do this once a week as some fun facts. And I want to welcome Peggy into the chat box this morning. La, 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 Lonesome Dove here. Yeah, well, that means because she's the only one in the chat box. I think Perry's out painting his house. I saw something on Facebook that Perry was painting the house, but he thought he was going to be able to finish it up yesterday, so maybe that's what he's doing today. I don't know. We'll see. Here are some want ads for sale signs and different things that I found. Paint job this summer. Call for free estimates. If I'm not home, arrange a date with my wife. Sounds like a pretty good prospect to me. Wanted. Widower with school-age children requires person to assume general housekeeping duties. Must be capable of contributing to growth of family. Cleaner required. Must be contentious. Wanted, free furniture. Full bed, end tables, working lamp, and a working floor model TV. You got to haul it. Can you imagine that? Somebody putting a wanted, I want free furniture. This is what I want, and you got to bring it to me. Talking about being, what do they call that? Being entitlist. For sale, 1 pair, hardly used dentures. Only 2 teeth missing. These are actual ads, people. Guy's giving away his dentures. There's only 2 teeth missing. Come on, what do you expect? For sale, American flag, 60 stars, pole included, $100. 60 stars? Doesn't say what country he's from, but I don't know of any flag that's got 60 stars on it. And for sale, 3 canaries of undetermined sex. Now, that's important, though, because only the male canary sings. Females don't, so sex is important when it comes to picking out a canary. My mom always had canaries, and boy, she had some that would just warble like you wouldn't believe. Just really beautiful. I love canaries. I love their song. I really do. I was having some fun yesterday with our pair of hawks that are living in our neighborhood and in our condo association, and he perched on a branch right above us. We were sitting out on the deck, and he perched right above us, and he was sitting there squawking, and I was doing the and he was actually listening to me. And he actually picked up his hand or his one paw or claw and waved to us. Maureen and I were just really, really thrilled. We was putting on quite a show for us. For sale, toaster, great fun for the whole family. Automatically burns toast. There you go, Peggy. Do you need a new toaster? One that'll automatically burn the toast. For sale, wedding dress. Worn once by mistake. Call Stephanie. For sale, 15-inch diameter, 3-speed fan. It will oscillate if you walk in a circle around it. True ads, folks. These are things that people put in. For sale, complete set of Encyclopedia Britannica. Excellent condition. No longer needed. Got married last month. Wife knows everything. I know some people that can relate to that one. For sale, solid oak funeral, homemade casket in good condition. Only used once. What'd they do? Dig it up, take his wife's body out and throw it away and put it... How do you use a casket once and then resell it? I don't know. Why are for sale, tombstone, standard gray, a goodbye for someone named Grady. And the last 4 from the ad page, open house, body shapers, toning salon, free coffee and donuts. Kind of sounds like a place for cops to hang out, right? Sheer stockings, designed for fancy dress, but so serviceable that lots of women wear nothing else. Yeah, that's a good one. The hotel has bowling alleys, tennis courts, comfortable beds, and other athletic facilities. And the last one from the ad page, auto repair service. I think Tom put this one in there. Free pickup and delivery. Try us once and you'll never go anywhere again. Yeah, no, that's not Tom. You all know who I'm talking about. Tom down there at Belvidere Auto Clinic. Guarantee it won't be that way. Try us, you'll never go anyplace else. And now for your entertainment pleasure, coming up right here on the Morning Show with Uncle Bill.
Big D, co-host on the Morning Show with Uncle Bill, right here on BNNS Radio. You'll wonder how you ever got along without him.
Good morning, Uncle Bill.
Good morning. You found that mute button early this morning. No dead air. I can't believe it.
Oh, my goodness. Have you still got those up?
Those ads?
Yeah.
No.
You already closed them? I like the one, the girl. I need a bed, and I need a TV, and I need all that, and I need you to bring it over here.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have it right here, yeah.
I need you to unload it and set it up.
Full bed, end tables, working lamp, and a working floor model TV. You've got to haul it. Yeah, honey, I'll be right over. I got all that stuff you need. Well, I guess maybe it could be.
And you know the sad part about it, the sad part is, Bill, I know what she's asking.
She's asking for somebody to move in with her.
No, she's got no way to haul it. So if you've got it, she, because of lack of words, because you're only, it's like a text message. You can't always put into a text message what you need. That's
Twitter. Twitter is short version. You can put as much into a text message as you want.
That's that's like conversations today. If you talk to some people today, they act like they can. I don't know what it is with some people. They act like they're only allowed so many words a day.
Well, what irritates me is we've gone back to hieroglyphics. We talk in emoticons and abbreviations. We don't even know how to spell things out anymore.
Oh, that's absolutely hysterical. Try to take a high school or young graduate college student and talk to them and listen how they pronounce words.
Ooh.
Half of them can't even say the word properly.
Right.
And
also joining us this morning here on the morning show is our research analyst, our producer, when Miss Liz isn't around, Craig, our new staff member here on BNNS Radio. Craig, from all the way out in Omaha. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning to the morning show.
How are you this morning?
Good, and I hope everyone else is as well.
I want Craig
your
fired.
Weekend?
What'd you say, D?
I want Craig fired.
All right.
Bill,
I'll talk to you guys another time then.
I want him fired. He's eating too much at the buffet. He's taking my portion.
I'll try to watch that.
There were 3 donuts left the other day. He took them. I saw him.
Well, I'm a poor man now, so I got to take what I can get.
Speaking of donuts, we've had so many roadblocks around here. I got a punch card now. Next time the cops pull us over, I'm gonna hand it to them and say, "Would you punch my card for my free cup of coffee and my bear claw?"
You cut out completely. We missed it.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Charter. I said I got a punch card now. We've had so many roadblocks around here. I got a punch card, and I'm going to hand it with my driver's license. I'm going to hand the cop that punch card, tell him I want my free cup of coffee and bear claw.
Real quick, I'd like to add to what Dee said about the free furniture. And we've got a buy-sell trade thing on Facebook, and I'm just for the Omaha area, and I'm guessing all cities have this. But I noticed that there's a lot of ads very similar to that. Single mom just found a place to rent. We have no furniture, kids sleeping on the floor. We need anything, and they'll start listing stuff out. And at first when I started reading them, I started thinking, okay, do we have old furniture in the basement that we kept because it's still good, that we could give her? And then I noticed that it wasn't just her. There were a lot of them. And it occurred to me, okay, how many of these are simply people that get furniture, turn around and sell it?
And
that's it. It just occurred to me, so I ain't giving any furniture away.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there are so many people out there that are in dire need. I mean, really in dire need. But how do you differentiate from those? Because we've talked about this a lot here, because we have a compassion closet. And again, we don't deny food to anybody that comes in to our compassion closet, because as God has instructed us, we're not to judge. But you often ask yourself a question and I know this is wrong, but everybody does it, and we're no different than anybody else. We all make mistakes. We all do it. We do it subconsciously rather than consciously, but we judge by outer appearances. And we look at people that come in, and we're getting an echo, Big D. I can't help but wonder, sometimes are people just playing the system, or are they? And the sad part of it is, it's exactly what you said, Craig, is that there are people out there that are desperate, people that are in dire need. Some woman just split from a abusive situation, and she has a couple children, and she has no place. And if she does find a room to go to, but they have no furniture, clothing, nothing, because of the abusive situation, so forth. So you really get caught up in the middle of all this, because you don't know who to help and who not to help, and we become judgmental and decide, well, we're not going to help anybody, because you may be one of those that are taking advantage of everybody else, and
well, I've mentioned on the show before, and this is just so you understand my point of view. For the last, I don't know how many years, Debbie and I have been giving $500. We select one individual, and we give them $500. But before we give them $500, several months ahead of time, we decide who actually needs the money. I refuse to give it to a charity because of all the horror stories you hear of.
Right.
I'd rather give it to someone who genuinely needs the money. Well, that being said, I live in an area of town it's a blighted end of town. And it used to be on Sunday mornings I would walk the neighborhood just for exercise. Well, of course, I got to know people and the local gossips around, and it really changed my mind on giving money, because there's people in this end of town that are actually proud and they brag about how they cheat the system and how they do exactly what you just said, Bill. People that are scamming, people that are taking advantage of. I'm getting a horrible echo. So when I see these ads on Facebook about we need a chair, we need this, we need that, I'm skeptical, and it's sad. It really is sad.
Well, unfortunately, you're absolutely right, and it has turned off giving a tremendous. We feel it here in the church. We feel it here in our community, where, and the stuff that you do see outside of the Salvation Army and the Goodwill or other collection points where they're looking for items for needy people. We're finding more trash than actual usable goods. And it's sad that more people are just getting rid of their trash than anything worthwhile. And now that's not to say that these agencies don't get some good stuff, but I think, Craig, that you're absolutely correct in that many people have reduced the amount of giving. Now, Maureen and I have decided that we are giving to St. Jude's, and we're giving to agencies like that where 100 Ronald McDonald houses, for example, if a family goes up to for medical treatment, and in the Ronald McDonald, they provide free housing for parents that have children that are in for medical treatment, and that 100% of that money goes to the charity and to those houses. Same thing with St. Jude's. 100% of your contribution goes to treatment of children. And there was a chart that was pasted on Facebook the other day, warning people about giving to Red Cross, Goodwill, and some of the American Legion, the VFW, and some of these other organizations where CEOs of these non-for-profit organizations are making upwards of six-figure monies plus all expenses, and only 10% or 10 cents of every dollar actually goes towards assisting veterans and assisting other people. And by far the number one, the worst, is the Red Cross. I wouldn't give Red Cross the last penny. If it was the only penny I ever had, I wouldn't give it to them.
That list would be worth you reading again, Bill, if you can find the actual list. You know, you're going off of something that's put on Facebook, so you don't know how accurate it is.
Well, and the person that posted it, I do give them credit. They said, I have not been able to validate, but this is, something to think about. But I did research it. I did go back and research it a few years back, and Dee and I have talked about this on our show before. And I actually did go back and research, and you can go look up charitable organizations, and they give you, and I think by law they have to report the income because they're a charitable organization. And in fact, one TV network tried to interview the Girl Scouts on the Girl Scout cookies, and they wouldn't even let them in the office. They turned them away. They wouldn't even talk to them. They wanted to know why they were driving Cadillacs and luxury vehicles, why their offices were so luxurious and how much was their pay. They wouldn't even talk to the network.
I think I saw that interview.
Yeah.
That station when they tried doing that.
Right. And so that got me to doing, and I did. I researched and came up with the fact that the Red Cross, 9/11 was a prime example. Tens of millions of dollars was given to the Red Cross to aid the victims of the 9/11. And they didn't get it. They got very, very little of the money that was donated to help the families of 9/11. And a friend of mine that was a police officer and is now a volunteer for the Salvation Army. He made 3 trips to 9/11 with the Salvation Army team to work, and he pulled a 2-week stay on each trip that he was there. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the Red Cross came in, they were there for about 3 weeks, and then they pulled out. And if you went to the Red Cross trailer or whatever it was they set up, I don't know if they set up a tent feeding place or not, but if you went to get a cup of coffee, they charged you for the cup of coffee. But if you went over to the Salvation Army, everything that they gave out was free. And the Salvation Army stayed for the entire duration of the 9/11 when they were still looking for and recovering bodies out of the debris. And the commander of the Salvation Army gets 0 wages.
Yeah, that's not true, Bill. He does draw an income.
Very, very, very.
It's very small. It's like 15 or 16 grand a year. He does have housing.
Right.
But then he gets like 15 or 16 grand. I'll just say 15. It's plus or minus a few thousand from there. Significantly less than Goodwill.
Right.
Compared to what a lot of these organizations pay their CEOs, Salvation Army doesn't get anything.
Yeah. I have a close family member that recently went through a year-long drug rehab, and that sold me on Salvation Army. They're the only ones I'll ever donate to again. The stories that he told me of how many people have been helped and the different ways that Salvation helps different problems, people with different problems. It just blew me away. I had absolutely no idea. I wish there was some way that people out there could learn how much the Salvation Army does for people absolutely free of charge.
And and I'll tell you one organization that, as far as I know, is the only organization 100% of all donations go to the people they're trying to help, and that's the Masons.
Now, I didn't know that. Bill, you used to be a Mason, didn't you?
Yep.
Now, am I wrong, Bill?
Yes.
Okay, then I stand corrected. Because I was always under the assumption that 100% of everything they make goes to the people they're trying to help.
Well, you see, though, now it may vary from state to state. Because any charitable organization, I don't care what it is, in the state of Illinois, and again, I don't know if this carries on from state to state, but everything that you make as a charitable organization, everything that you make from the public, for example, if you set up a food booth, if you run a drive, take muscular dystrophy, for example, if you are asking money from the public, every dime of what you make must go back to the public. take the Lions Club, and I can speak because I'm in the Lions Club, and I know emphatically that every dime that we make when we hold a event where we sell or distribute something to the public in exchange for money, every dime of what we bring in from the public must go back to the public in some way, shape, or form. Now, the question is, well, how do you run your organization? How does your club exist when you need computers, printers, ink, paper, things of that nature that are required to run your organization? You must do internal fundraising to raise the money to operate your organization. You cannot use public money to run your organization. So every year we have fundraisers within the organization in order to get the operating funds to keep our club alive and do the necessary administrative things. But every dime you make from the public has to go back to the public.
Now, are the Masons like that?
Technically, yes. But it doesn't happen. Let me give you an example. I used to have an organization when I was on the police department. We had an organization we called the Police Association, and it was a non-for-profit charitable organization where we would hold shows once a year to raise money to put back into the community. There is a law in Illinois that the split between a professional fundraiser, if you use a professional fundraiser to conduct your event, the split is 75-25. So, in other words, people are led to believe that 75% of your donation goes back to the community or to the charitable organization, but it does not. That is a misleading statement and a misleading belief by a lot of people. Well, let me give you, and again, let me explain this so that you fully understand. The fundraiser, the professional fundraiser, can charge you for their services, and they do. They charge you 45% of everything that they bring in. They get 45%. They keep 35%. They give you 10% of everything that comes in right up front. In other words, you hold back 10% just in case somebody takes off with the money, some unscrupulous organization. And that's exactly what happened to us one time. But either way, they keep 35%. The rest goes to, they have to pay for all the advertising, the phones, if they set up a phone solicitation, so on and so forth. And then the club or the organization that is sponsoring the show, they have to pay the show. They have to pay for the show. They have to pay some of the other expenses that come along. The only thing that the professional fundraiser pays for is the phone system and any ads that they put in the paper and that sort of thing. And so basically, when the day of the show comes along, then you sit down with the professional fundraiser and you figure up all the money that was collected. They already have their 35%, plus you must give them the other 10% that they had coming that was held off in reserve. You pay for the show, you pay for the other things that you were supposed to pay for. So then you come up with a net that was made during their fundraising efforts. That is what gets split 75-25. So let's say you raise, well, it wasn't unusual for us to raise around $55,000 for a show. 45% of that went to the fundraiser, plus we had to pay for the show, which was another $2,500 to $3,000 for the show. Plus we had to pay some of the other miscellaneous stuff. And then what was left over got split 75-25. So they got another 25% off the net. And when it came right down to it, really only about 19 cents of every dollar that somebody donated went to the actual charitable organization. So if I recalling my memory, when we raised around $55,000, our net proceed that we brought in to give back to the community averaged right around $15,000.
So they're playing with the numbers.
Exactly. And I know that's true. That's from personal experience. That is not a story written by anybody. That is personal experience. I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then I quit it because it was a ripoff.
A number of years ago, I was looking to join some organization, and I mentioned to someone close to me about joining the Masons. And right away, this person spoke up and said, I really wish that you wouldn't. They were a member of the Masons. So I never asked any more questions, but I did not pursue it. I do have a buddy that's in the Shriners, but I know nothing about it. To be honest with you, when I was told, no, don't do the Masons, I kind of just let that idea drop.
Well, no, the reason I brought up the Masons is because my dad was a member of the Masons, and I've known several Masons, and it's like they raise money, but when they fly kids somewhere for medical attention, I mean, everybody that I knew that did the flying paid for the gas and the plane and everything.
Well, you got to keep in mind, Dee, that not every organization is the same. Sadly, I can tell you that every year our Masonic Lodge held an Easter ham dinner. And when I first got into the Belvidere Mace, I was raised in Omaha. When I say raised, I'm not talking about I was born and grew up in Omaha, which I did, but when you join the Masons, your first 3 degrees that you go through, they call that raising. So when I was raised in the Masons in Omaha, it wasn't too long after I had met my 3rd degree that I moved to Illinois. And, of course, I was having marital, financial, and other problems during that period of time in my life. And so I let my membership in the Masonic Lodge drop. And it wasn't until I met up with another fella I got to be good friends with, and he was a Mason, and he talked me into joining the Belvidere Masonic Lodge, which I did. And at that time, we had a good lodge, a very active lodge. We held several fundraiser events, the biggest of which was our annual Easter ham dinner. And we brought in tons of people for that ham dinner. We worked our tails off. Sadly, of all the years that I was in the Masonic Lodge, and I've gone through all the chairs except the Grand Master, the Master of the Lodge. That was my next step, was to be the Master of the Lodge. I had a falling out with certain individuals, and I ended up leaving the lodge. But all during those years that I was there, never did we put any money back into the community.
Where did the money go?
Stayed in our treasury. We had certain individuals that was in our organization that wanted to see the money grow. And we really didn't lay out much money back in the community. Therefore, membership began to drop off because nobody really knew where the money was going in the Masonic Lodge. Now, that's just Belvidere. I'm not talking about other lodges. There may be lodges out there across the country. Well, if you read the Masonic newsletters, you'll read about Masonic organizations doing great things for people. But I think that happens with every organization. When you have a community full of Lions clubs, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, not IOU, but some of the other organizations, they do great things in their community, but then there are other towns where they really don't do much for their community. So I think it's just one of those things that some are terrific clubs and do wonderful things for the community, and then there are other clubs that just basically meet and greet. That's it. So I don't want to pick on any particular organization, and I don't want to say that the Masonic Lodge is not or is a bad organization to belong to. I don't want anybody to be I don't want to be accused of saying that the Masonic Lodge is a bad organization, because Masonic to me is nothing more than ritual. Lots and lots and lots of ritual takes place in the Masonic Lodge.
Is it religion-based?
No. Well, yes, it is. To a degree, it is. The center of the floor has a Bible.
Does it choose a particular religion?
No.
Christianity?
No.
Your father was a Mason, wasn't he?
No.
Well, I know he was part of the DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and I know for a fact that they did charitable stuff because your father was instrumental in creating the first thrift store down in South Omaha.
Right.
And that store's proceeds went to disabled veterans.
Disabled American Vet. That was the only organization that I know my dad was a member of or belonged to, and you're right. Dad was instrumental in bringing World Wrestling to Omaha at the Coliseum.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
He started that. Every year they held an annual Christmas party for needy children in the community, and they would go down to the Coliseum, and the kids, because Mom and I and the rest of the family would all go down, and we packed brown bags. We took a whole Saturday, and all we did was stuffed bags with toys and with candy. And back in those days, you got a handful of loose candy, you got maybe a handful of peanuts, and you got a coloring book, and you got some crayons, and you just menial stuff by comparison of what is expected today. But these kids just ate it up. I mean, they just absolutely loved, and they got an apple. Everybody got an orange, and it was necessity. And then, of course, they got a few things that they could actually play with, like crayons, coloring books, and some other type of small game or something.
Now the kids would expect an iPod or an iPhone in every bag.
Absolutely. But every year, it was not unusual for us to have 2,000 or 3,000 children show up at the Coliseum to meet Santa Claus and get their little brown bag. And that was part of Dad. And then, like you said, Dad started the thrift stores. And Dad was a national officer with the DAV, but that's the only organization that I know of that Dad was a member of.
You know, I got a hold of the DAV chapter. They moved to a newer building long after Dad died, and his picture was up there on the wall for a while. Then I heard that they took the picture down, and I tried getting a hold of them to see if I could get that picture. They wouldn't give it to me. They kept it in a box somewhere.
Wonder why they took them down.
I talked to someone that was a member of that, and they said that they had new leadership in there, and they went through and basically all of the people that were instrumental in years past, they got rid of all of them. They said everything changed.
Well,
it's more like just a local hangout now.
Because Dad was a national officer he was national adjutant, and also
he was a rat.
He was also a trench rat, which is a sub-organization of the DAV, and he was the National Golden Rodent, which was the national officer, national president of the trench rats.
I know he flew all over the United States.
Sure, and I was very resentful of that for many years, and it wasn't until I grew up and joined not-for-profit organizations myself that I began to appreciate what Dad actually really did for the DAV and other people and veterans and so on and so forth. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to tell my dad that before he passed away, because I now know why he did what he did. But the thing that disappointed me with the Disabled American Vet, Mom was in the auxiliary, your mother was in the auxiliary, and our family was committed to the DAV. And that chapter promised Dad that after his death, their chapter was called the General MacArthur chapter, named after General MacArthur.
I remember that.
And they promised Dad, they passed a resolution in their meetings that when Dad passed away, they were going to rename the lodge after him. And after he passed away, they did not keep that resolution. And I was really disappointed in that, because Dad gave his heart and his soul to that organization.
I was resentful. My mom tried to get a 21 gun resuit. You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
And she could not get it. They would not do it. I was very, 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 very angry with them.
I did not know that.
Yep. That's why your father did not get a 21 gun salute. They could not get enough guys to do it.
Really?
I just think that's absolutely sinful. But anyway.
Yeah.
The show really went a far distance from what you had intended on.
Yeah. Well, we've almost shot an hour, and we haven't gotten anywhere near what we were going to talk about.
Could do a break and do it afterwards.
Well, Big D, you got anything you want to share? Because I got to get set up. I didn't realize we were that close to the top of the hour. Peggy said, by the way, Craig, she wants your pink beard back.
For those that don't know, my sister's birthday kind of turned into it went from being just a handful of people to a huge party. Family showed up, and Bill's 3 sisters bought that quick spray in pink and purple hair, so they sprayed their gray hair pink and purple. And when I showed up at the restaurant, they talked me into doing my gray beard. They painted my gray beard pink, and just under the lower lip, they put a purple stripe. And I'm totally bald, so they couldn't do my hair. That's why they did my beard.
Huh.
Well, listen.
Of course, it washes right out.
Well, listen, real quick, before we get out of here for a break, this is something we've talked about a lot, guys, is be wary of what you read on Apple or on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, more and more they're finding that a lot of what you're reading is being generated by what they call bots. It's one person making themselves look like anywhere from 100 to as many as 1,000 people. So be careful about what you read. Also, something else that we'll probably talk about in the near future. Have you guys heard about this where companies are now chipping people, putting chips under their skin?
Yes.
I just heard that last week.
Can you believe there are actually people out there who are begging their company to do this?
Well,
They
the
love
story
it.
that, what'd you say, Bill?
They love it.
Well, you can pay you could walk into a local Quickie Mart, wave your hand in front of the thing, and pay for your soda, your Twinkies, cigarettes, whatever.
Well, these companies that have electronic doors, you carry a fob that allows you to electronically open the door.
I used to have one that I carried in my wallet.
Yeah. And you just pass your wallet over the little gray box, and the door popped open, and you were in. And I've got one.
I can tell you how those work, real quick. They have no battery in them.
Nope.
They've got a coil, a very, 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 very thin coil wire. What they do is they put a chip in the middle of it, and then they put that copper coil. They wind that around without touching the chip. If you can just kind of picture of them split halfway open, and they wind that coil all the way around until it reaches the perimeter of however big the card is. And then, of course, they close the card. And the way that works is that thing that you're waving your card in front of, it's putting out an extremely low amount of current. When you wave that card in front of that thing, that coil wire induces enough electricity to work that chip that has your information on it. That's exactly how those work. Well, I'm curious about what Dee's talking about when they put that chip in. Where is the coil wire that it needs to create enough electricity for that chip to activate? I mean, obviously you do it, but I'd like to know physically how it works.
Well, this chip is supposedly no bigger than a grain of rice.
Exactly.
And so I'm assuming that this wire is extremely thin, and they wrap it around the chip. And I don't know. All I know is that people, like Dee said, people are very happy with it. They love it because they no longer have to worry about losing their keys, losing their wallet, forgetting the fob at home, or I had one of my earlier fobs broke where it goes on the key ring, and if you lose that fob, they have to kill it and you get a new one. But if somebody gets to it before, gets reported and stopped. So, but this
I would like one with my medical information on it. I would want Debbie to have one implanted in her with her medical information on it.
Sure. I could see a lot of uses for chips. I really,
Yeah, but my problem is that you don't know what else is on that chip.
That kind of goes with what Bill said before. Go ahead and look through my computer. I don't have anything on there I'm ashamed of.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about GPS.
Oh, wow. I just don't. Well, of course, I'm not trained in that, but I just can't see that being possible. But who'd have thought something the size of a grain of rice could do all that?
Well, even with that in mind, what's the harm? If somebody was to key in your code wanting to know where you're at. What's
if you carry a smartphone, it's the same thing, and
Exactly.
your smartphone stands a better chance of GPS than. Well, they do GPS on smartphones.
Well, the thing that people don't realize, I mean, okay, so we insert a chip under the skin at our wrist so that we can get into buildings, get into our bank accounts, go to the ATM, doing different things that chip is advantageous, and they're because right now, when you walk out that door, somebody knows where you're at, either through your cell phone, through an ATM card, or
Cameras.
Through cameras.
You've heard me say on the show before, with my experience in my last job, you can assume that when you leave your house, you're on camera. That don't mean you are, but you better assume that you are.
You know, the one thing that comes to mind, Craig and Dee, when we talk about this, there's one line that always comes to my mind, and it really hit home. And remember the movie Ocean's 11?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember towards the end of the movie, after the bank robbery, or the Bellagio, when it gets robbed, and they tell Julia Roberts to turn on her TV and watch, and they recorded her boyfriend, the guy that owned the Bellagio, saying something about Julia, and she heard that, and of course that's when she decides that he's not the guy she thought he was. And he made the comment to her, well, she went to give him a kiss in the elevator, remember?
Yes.
And she said, He said, in Las Vegas, somebody is always watching. And so then at the end of the movie, when she breaks up with him, and he says, but you can't leave or something, she says, remember, somebody is always watching. And that always stuck in my mind, because it's true. If somebody wants to know where you're at, it's not hard to find you. You either used an ATM card, you've used your cell phone, which is easy to ping that, and it's so the matter of putting a chip in somebody's arm, or even in the forehead, like they were talking about, it doesn't scare me a bit.
Now, here, a few years ago, Debbie and I needed to talk about something that we absolutely wanted no one but except the two of us. We didn't want it to go any farther. So we shut off both phones, wrapped them in plastic bags, and stuck them in the back seat, under the seat.
Wouldn't it be better?
Of course, turned them off. Do what, Bill?
Wouldn't it be better to wrap him in aluminum foil?
I didn't have aluminum foil, but in a plastic bag, a Walmart bag, going down the street, you're going to hear
oh, okay.
underneath the back seat, and they were turned off. And we talked very quiet going down the road saying what we wanted to say. And that's because you hear rumors that when they're turned off, they can get on it. Now, whether they can or not, I don't know, but I didn't want to take a chance. Even at home in our house, if we have something private to say, we go someplace away from the televisions, away from the computers, away from any of that, because of what I said. Assume you're on camera. Some televisions have cameras on them. Mine do.
Well, you take, for example, some of your, and this is primarily GM cars, they have OnStar.
Yep.
And they transmit information about your car all the time. I can go to an app on my cell phone and pull up my car at any given time, and I can tell you what the oil life is. I can tell you what the tire pressure is in each tire. I can tell you how many miles I've driven. I can tell you my average speed and a host of other things that it's reading the computer chip in my car. And I've often wondered if I have all this being transmitted from my car, is somebody intercepting my conversations in the car?
Yep. D, because of what we're talking about, are you suspicious of this kind of stuff, or are you pretty comfortable that this doesn't happen?
OnStar has already proven that they can listen into your car conversation. FBI can get a warrant under certain circumstances, and OnStar can reverse it and tap in and listen to what you're saying.
Well, but it has to be under a federal order.
But remember, law enforcement is not the only person that has your that technology. And now here's something else too. If you put your medical information on one of these chips and you put it under your skin, isn't that a violation of the HIPAA?
I don't see why it would be.
Because now your medical information can be accessed by any other people than you and your doctor.
Well, then I guess but you're giving consent. Well, no, you're not really. You're taking the responsibility.
I mean, I think when you agree to insert the chip, you're giving consent that can be read.
That it's possible. I know that I carry my information on my little fob on my keychain.
Well, again, why would I not want my medical information available to, if my life depended on it? Do you think I care about HIPAA?
I don't.
Do you really think I care?
I'm not. I don't either. It's just I see all these new ideas, and I see stuff that's come up with computers and things like that, and unfortunately, I've been in and around government so long. If there's a way to screw up and use it the wrong way, the government will figure it out.
Of course. There was something on the news within the last week that really hit home with me, that all this technology is great, but the government cannot come close to keeping up with it as far as regulations.
True. And my whole premise is that this, to me, would just be more of an encouragement and a reason for people to clean up your act and live a decent life. To me, it's like it almost gives me the incentive to say, God is listening, God is watching, therefore I must live a fruitful life which is pleasing to God. And I mean, if you're a good Christian, you're being taught that anyway. So what difference does it make if it's God that's listening or if it is the government listening? I don't care, because I don't do anything wrong in my life.
No.
The only bad habit that I have is sometimes I will gossip, which is a no-no in the Christian family, but you can't help it because somebody else is starting a conversation and you just find yourself falling into line with that conversation. But when you stop and think about what you're saying, you never know who's listening. So, but to me, I just look at it as if, well, God's listening and God's watching me, so I better live a decent life to earn my way into the pearly gates. And so it doesn't matter to me who's listening. Now, if I'm living an unscrupulous life and I'm out raping people, or I'm stealing from people, or I'm breaking into people's bank accounts and this, that, and the other, well, then I got something to worry about. But if I live a clean, wholesome life, Who cares? Some people get off on this idea, well, it's an invasion of my privacy.
No, Bill, we've talked about this before, and I'm 180 degrees from you. I don't have anything that anyone can see that is going to send me to jail. I have some habits that, no, I don't want broadcast, but it would just be embarrassing.
Yeah, but is your life such that warrants people wanting to sit and listen to your life?
Oh,
my life is so,
it would be, yep, just what you're going to say. Mine is so boring.
My life is so boring. They're going to say, this guy needs to get a life.
But I don't want a camera looking in my house. The vast majority of the time, I'm either naked or in my underwear. There's a mental image for you to try to scrub out. But you see what I mean? There's nothing that I'm going to get in trouble for. But it would be embarrassing if there's they're looking to the camera on the TV.
Why would it be embarrassing?
Because I know what I look like in a mirror.
But if you're comfortable at home that way, well, it's the other person that is going to be embarrassed. Oh my God, I don't want to see this. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Well, since the kids are no longer living at home, Debbie and I are just comfortable being comfortable.
There you go. So what's the difference? I mean,
that's what I'm trying to say is I'm not doing anything that's going to send me to jail, but it would be embarrassing for people to find out, and I don't. It's like we've talked before. My income. I've never liked anyone to know how much I make, whether it be just if I was making $10,000 a year, or if I'm making $400,000 a year. It's my business and no one else's.
No, but you have to reveal that information on certain documents.
Only to the government. And that's only because I'm absolutely required. But I wouldn't tell you what I'm, as close as I am to you, I wouldn't tell you, unless I have already. I typically wouldn't tell you how much I make. My dad doesn't know how much I make.
See, I don't care if people know. I really don't.
I do. I don't know why I do. I just think it's no one's business.
If I were Bill making six figures a year, I'd be proud of it.
I mean, it's not something that I would broadcast on the radio here. It's not something that I would talk about open and freely. But if somebody really wanted to know what I make, I don't care. I really don't care if they know what I make and what I'm worth. I earned every bit of that. And would I just randomly sit down and start broadcasting it? No. But if somebody that I trusted and that I knew would not put it on Facebook or whatever, I really don't have anything to hide. So I guess I just live a very common, ordinary, dull life that nobody's going to be interested in. Otherwise, there would be an author out there looking to write my autobiography, and that's not going to happen. So what else?
You don't care?
Huh?
No, I do. I do care, and it's not because I'm paranoid or because I have anything in my life to hide. We have developed rules in society. And I see this more and more every day, is that people just, oh, what the hell type attitude. If a police officer pulls me over for a speeding ticket and then comes back, he goes and runs my license and comes back and says, by the way, would you mind if I search your car? No, I wouldn't mind, but I'm not going to authorize you to do it unless you have a reason. Because
I would say get a warrant.
It's not that I'm trying to be argumentative with the police officer. I just don't want to set a precedence. Because after a while, then it just becomes, oh, well, the cops can just search your car anytime they want to. And it might not affect me, but it could affect somebody else down the road.
Hey, if they're carrying contraband or doing something illegal, then let's get them off the road. All right, since you said that, what do you think about Trump's statement to the law enforcement that he spoke to over the weekend that take the hand away?
I don't know what that means.
Remember when you watch TV or when you watch videos of cops putting people in squad cars?
Yeah.
What's the first thing they do?
Put their hand on top of their head to put them in.
Put their hand on top of their head so that they don't bang their head getting into the car. So Trump says, when you arrest a thug, take the hand away. In other words, who gives a crap if he bangs his head being put in a squad car?
That's wrong. That's judging. That's assuming he's guilty before he's tried. That's wrong.
No, I mean, there are rules for a reason, and I've been an advocate. Naive, maybe, but if we all played by the same rules, we wouldn't have 2/3 of the problems we got right now.
Bill, as an officer, what do you think about the hand?
It doesn't really bother me.
To take it away?
Right, because I know the individuals that I arrest. If I arrest a guy because he ran a stop sign, and when I ran a report that on his driver's license and it comes back that there's a warrant for his arrest for domestic battery, that doesn't mean I'm going to treat him like an evil, satanic creature on this planet and just throw his butt in a car, whether I bump his head or not, or this, that, and the other. I would use care. I would be sympathetic. I don't know the background of his domestic violence or what their background is and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I would be careful. I would put my hand on his head, make sure that he doesn't get hurt getting into the car, so on and so forth. However, if I just picked up a guy, arrested a man who was actively being a participant in a street riot, and I just observed him throw a garbage can through a storefront window and grab some products from that store, and I was able to apprehend him, would I care about how I put him in the squad car? Or if I just saw him walk into a place and shoot up, like the story that we have up here, 29 people shot in Chicago, and a 4-year-old kid gets nailed, gets shot. I mean, if I was able to apprehend the individuals that was randomly shooting into a crowd of people, would I really care about how I put him in the squad car? Absolutely not.
Now, when I worked
and that is the only thing that I support when Donald Trump made that statement, is that most police officers know at what point you just really don't care how you put the person into the car. 99.9% of the time, they're going to take care and make sure that the individual is safe getting into a squad car. But if it's a thug, and I mean a true, honest-to-goodness thug, then I don't care.
Well, see, after watching that show on TV, Live PD, I'm a firm believer that as a police officer, I would have tried to put him in the back seat through a closed window.
I remember one time we had a guy that was an absolute thug. He was being an absolute jerk, and we handcuffed him after a struggle and a fight. And I remember the captain, who was on duty at the time, He told the guys, he says, open that GD door. And he literally picked this guy up by the nape of the neck and the crotch of his pants and literally threw him in the squad car. What he didn't realize is that the two officers assisting him, well, there were more than two, but the two officers that were there, they each opened a squad door on both sides of the guy, went right through the squad car out onto the street. But that was back in the days. But the guy was being a total jerk.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose was he didn't expect him to open both squad doors, but the purpose was just to throw his ass in the squad car and take off with him. And so did that bother me? Absolutely not. Now, if he would have stopped a guy for running a stop sign and the guy had a warrant because he didn't pay a previous parking ticket, would I treat him that way? Absolutely not. I wouldn't even think of it. So when Trump makes a statement like that, it doesn't affect me because 99.9% of the police officers treat people with the utmost respect. If you treat them with respect, they will treat you with respect.
Oh, speaking of treating officers with respect, I have seen an indicator that the apocalypse is about to happen, Bill. On one of the pullovers that they did, I want you to realize that 2 white officers pulled over 2 young black men. And at the end of it, when it was over with, all they got out of it was a warning. They actually shook hands on camera. And the white officers did not shoot the young black men. And I looked at Big Mama and asked, I said, what, are lambs sleeping with lions now? You know, this is the apocalypse. But what you see is real life. It's not as bad out there as you want to be led to believe.
In our Bible study yesterday, we got to talking about different aspects of this, and I said the reason and we started on this a week ago or 2 weeks ago, that about all the negativity that we hear and read about in our society.
Yeah.
And it's all the media's fault.
It is. It's absolutely.
And it's all media fed because the only thing they want you to know about is the negativity. In other words, the speech that Donald Trump gave to those police officers, what's the only thing you heard about in that speech? Was the liberals becoming unglued the moment he said, take away the hand. And that is the only thing they picked up on. But if you go back and if you find the source where they recorded his entire speech, it was all positive towards law enforcement and towards enforcement of the laws in general and the good work that police officers do. Last night I had the proud privilege of going to a police appreciation dinner. And the whole evening was on the premise of appreciating the police officers that put their life on the line every single day. They recanted the episode of the major apartment house fire we had, the 2 apparent or close to drownings that we had. Well, one of them was an actual drowning, and the other one was a woman drove her car into the river, and the police officers were able to save both her and her child. and the different things and the way police officers put themselves out there for the betterment of the public. Now, you can be a nasty, badass guy in town. And I've seen this in my career, and I've seen it since I have retired. That you can be a known bad guy in town, and police officers, if they, let's just say they pull you over for a traffic ticket, traffic violation, they will treat you with the same respect that they treat everybody else. But the moment that you start bad-mouthing, the moment you start giving the cop a hard time, the moment you start treating the cop like a dirtbag, then that's when the tide changes. But every police officer, and I can't say this for everyone in the in the continental United States, but I can tell you that every police officer will treat everybody the same. If you treat them with respect, they will treat you with respect. I have dealt with bad guys for 23 years, and I treated none of them. And I had my life threatened by a crowd of black people for a simple call, as simple as an abandoned car found in Clinton, Iowa. And I was assigned to find out why the driver's car, the owner of that car, why it was in Clinton, Iowa, abandoned on a highway in Clinton, Iowa. And during that whole episode, I was surrounded by black people. And that was back in the early 70s, late 60s, actually. And I very easily could have been taken out, but because I treated them with respect, I didn't fall to their little comments. And from that day forward, I was the only police officer that could go out to that area of town and walk in there and was respected and treated. And when I told them to turn the music down and so on and so forth, they listened. So what I'm trying to say is if you treat people with respect, they will treat you with respect. Yes, they may try to push your button for whatever reason. But if you just don't let them do that, don't let them get to you just by mere words. Now, if it comes to physical contact, that's a different situation. But mere words should not set off anybody in a retaliatory attempt to solve a situation. And that's the thing I trained every one of my police officers with. And last night I had the honor of sitting with one of my trainees that I trained 30 years ago. And he still says and respects me to this day for the training that I gave him. He said, I would not be where I am today if it had. And he restated to me several comments that I made to him that has stuck with him all these years. And he lives by it. And that made me feel good. Because that was the way I trained my officers, and that is the way 30 years later, he's still living by that very same training that I gave him.
Now, when I worked at the psych hospital, I worked there 12 years, and it started out as an alcohol and drug unit. Then it morphed into just a normal psychiatric unit, and then morphed into geriatric psych the last year or so I was there. Well, anyway, I was the guy in the white coat, although we dressed in street clothes, but I was the guy that was hired. If someone went off, I was one of the men on the floor that jumped on them and to put them in the quiet room.
No wonder
padded wall. Do what?
No wonder you got so many aches and pains today.
And there were several years, I worked the evening shift, and I was the only male in the entire building. So what ended up happening, no matter how big the gentleman was that needed to be jumped on, I would do a flying leap to catch him at the shoulders, which would get him off balance. We would hit the floor, and we would be dogpiled by the female nurses, and they would stick him full of Thorazine, something to calm him down. Well, anyway, because I weighed like $150 back then, 6 foot tall and about $150. I got very, very good at just what you said, Bill. Treating them with respect, no matter how crazy they were, no matter how much of a sociopath they were. I learned to treat them with respect, and probably 3/4 of the time, no matter how crazy they were, I could talk them down without having to jump on them.
Precisely.
And it's exactly what you said. You don't treat them like a crazy individual. You don't feed into their behaviors, and you don't let them push your buttons. One of the things that I typically said was, let's do this the easy way. If we do it the hard way, we're going to win. Because if we can't do it, we get security. If security can't do it, we get Omaha police. So I said, you're going to lose. But if you and I can just walk in there, and I'll sit in the quiet room with you, we can talk, or we can be quiet. It's easier on you. It's easier on me. And, the vast majority of the time, no matter how crazy they were, that worked. Rather than being confrontational, rather than putting my chest out and being a big old tough guy, I treated them with respect, and just what you said, the vast majority of the time that worked.
Yep. With that being said, I'm going to play for you a short 2-minute video, and we'll discuss this.
Violence leads to another family tragedy. Tonight, a young mother has been shot to death, her 4-year-old son wounded. It all happened in an alley at Camerling in Latrobe in the North Austin neighborhood. NBC5's Trina Orlando has spoken with the family tonight. Trina, I'm sure they're heartbroken.
Marianne, they sure are. Good evening to you. Family members tell me this was an ambush in an alley. They say the Kia boyfriend knew that the ambush was coming, and he slipped away, leaving the Kia and her young son in the line of fire.
It's hysterical.
Ronnie Betts was doing an interview with us when a family member yelled from the yard that 27-year-old Nakia Betts didn't survive.
She just died.
The mother of 3 was in the alley behind her North Austin home Friday with her 19-year-old boyfriend and 4-year-old son when family members say the group was ambushed.
When I opened the back door, I left it open for them. I thought they were coming in behind me. It wasn't even 1 minute later, I heard at least 11 shots ring out.
Police say Nakia Betts was shot in the head. Her son, Elijah Johnson, shot in the arm, but able to run for help.
I go get it. I go get it.
I go get it. 4-year-old shot. And I'm sure he's going to be traumatized because he said his mom was shot. And that's going to be with him for the rest of his life.
His boyfriend suffered a gunshot wound to the arm. He's in the target of the shooting. Community activist Andrew Holmes is now offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
The only way we're going to stop this is we need to speak up. Police, our own community. This shouldn't have happened to her, and this shouldn't have happened to that baby. Why did the baby have to go through this?
And the 4-year-old and his mother's boyfriend are being treated tonight at Stroger Hospital. Both are expected to survive. So far, no arrests have been made. Live at Stroger Hospital, I'm Trina Orlando. Now back to you.
Tough tragedy. Thank you so much.
All right. How do you handle a situation like that? There is so much of this going on in the city of Chicago. If you were appointed chief of police of Chicago, what would you do?
It almost seems like a a double-edged. It's a problematic any way you look at it. I mean, you want to stop it, but it seems like every time the cops try to do something, the ACLU or the Southern Poverty League or some group like this, oh, you can't do this. We had a problem here in Atlanta, and had it not been such a prominent black neighborhood that and when I say prominent, the name of it was prominent, I probably wouldn't have picked up on it. But the neighborhood, Ralph Abernathy neighborhood, asked the cops to come in, Bill, and clean up their neighborhood. Well, every time the cops would say, well, we're going to come in and do this and do that and do something else. Oh, you can't do that. Okay, well, what about this, and that? Oh, you can't do that. Well, what can we do? Well, we don't know, but do something.
What gives the ACLU and these other organizations that you're talking about, what gives them the authority to stop law enforcement from doing their job?
They don't essentially stop them, as in saying you can't do this, but they start tying stuff up in court.
Well, don't you think that this is part of our judicial system?
Oh, absolutely.
Mute your mic, Craig.
It is.
Okay.
No, we just heard you.
Yeah, and now it's not. Now it's showing that it's not. Sorry, guys. It showed that it was, and I moved the mouse, and it showed that it's not.
Okay, no problem.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm all for having, people there to take care of actual violations. But it's like, what was the story I read a few days ago? A city actually toughened the criminal law concerning being caught with an illegal weapon. And people went nuts. They actually had to arrest some people in the meeting that were wanting to know why these violations. Yeah, wait a minute. Wait. What violations? I mean, Bill, that's the problem with law enforcement today. Anything they try to do is now considered some kind of violation of human rights, violation of civil rights, or something.
But see, I disagree. You're finding this type of a situation more so in your major cities than you find in, well, all right, take Chicago. 70 miles to the to the east of Belvidere. We're not that far away from Chicago. But we don't have problems here. We do not have gang problems. We have gangs. Yes, we do. There are gang members living in Belvidere. But you know what a police officer told me one day? Our gang intervention unit has to go door to door to find our gang members. They're not out on the street. They're not out there shooting up the neighborhood. Have we had shooting situations? Yep. Occasionally, 1 or 2 a year. Maybe we're lucky. Now, we've gone a couple years with no shootings. But you're going to have crime no matter where you go, what you do, or anything else. However, we don't have a major crime problem in Belvidere with gangs simply because we took a proactive approach. They passed a law that said it was illegal for gang members to hang out with other gang members. and people went to jail. Gang members went to jail. We broke the gangs up. But you go to the city of Chicago, and that's all you see is gang member out there shooting up the neighborhoods, like we talked in the pre-show, that people jump on crotch rockets and go up and down the street shooting randomly. They don't care who they hit, what they hit, or anything else. People steal, gang members steal cars, run up and down the street shooting at people, and then they abandon the car because they're never, ever going to get caught. So why doesn't some of these major cities pick up on what we do successfully in our smaller communities and go proactive rather than reactive?
Well, Bill, I think they'd like to, except look at who you've got running the cities. What was it, Baltimore, where the mayor told the police to back off? It's you know.
And whose fault is that?
Well, what is the police chief supposed to do? But
whose fault is that?
The voters?
Yes. Exactly.
Look at
I would like to see the statistics of, because Detroit and Chicago are both Democratic-led cities. And I would like to know the statistics of the crime rate of Democrat-led cities versus the crime rate of Republican-led cities. And I don't mean per year, I mean over several years.
Well, I mean, look at us out here. We've had a couple of gangs try to form out here. We're like Belvidere and that area. No, you're not. It's not going to happen. And it didn't. And they moved on. But, I mean, look who you've got for mayor in Chicago right now. That's your number one problem right there. And it's, if you watch these groups, these civil rights groups, they pick and choose where they want to file these lawsuits, first of all. Because there's a lot of money to be made in Chicago.
Well, see, to me, it comes down to we have to start taking a proactive, and our court systems, our judicial systems, and I grant it's easier for me to say than to do, but I understand that. But we've got to start somewhere, and we have got to start putting pressure on our judges, on our mayors, on our city aldermen and alderwomen, and put the pressure where it's deserved, because if you don't get your butt out there and clean up our ward and take a proactive approach and get something done and tell these ACLU people to go take a flying leap and quit yielding to their outcries, and the judicial system has to stand up to these people. And unless you can come to me with some absolute evidence that there is a violation going on here, get out of my courtroom. Let's become Judge Browns. Let's become Judge Judy's. Let's become Judge Janine Pirro, however you pronounce her name. Let's get some real judges on the benches that are willing to stand up to people. And start taking a proactive approach to these people, and it won't take long, and you're going to end up getting rid of a lot of these problems. And the same thing we were talking earlier about the crotch rockets blocking intersections, blocking streets, harassing drivers. Take away their toys. Take away their bike. Treat them like children, because that's how they're acting. And you know, we just have to get tough.
Yeah, but I think we've allowed it to go on so long at this point. I'm afraid that we might have to violate certain civil rights.
Well, we may have to.
But I mean, how many more people? News flash. The death rate in Chicago has now reached 400 since the first of the year this year.
Yeah.
How many more people have to die before the cops can go do their job, before a city council will actually before people start, like Bill said, forcing city councils and county commissions to admit there's a problem?
Well, if I can interject here just for a moment, D, that there are people in these communities, in these so-called communities that you mentioned that you had in Atlanta and so on and so forth. There are people living within these neighborhoods where the crime rate is so significantly high. You mean to tell me that they don't know who these gang members are, and they don't know who their neighbor kids are and what they're up to and so on? They don't see the activity that's going on in the neighborhood. They don't see these kids hanging out on street corners. They don't see some of the stuff that the harassment that they're doing to the general public, but yet they won't call the authorities on their own people. And they want the police to come in and clean up their neighborhood, but they won't do anything to help. And I think this is where the problem, I mean, the community has got to come together and start cleaning up the problem. That's what Belvidere did. The community got together. We had gang prevention seminars. We had crime or gang classes where how to identify gangs. What are the colors? What do they mean? And so on and so on, and people began to recognize, and if they saw a group standing on a corner, they would call the authorities, and the authorities would go out there and either arrest them, because we now have a law that says gang members can't hang with gang members, and therefore 3 people go to jail, 4 people go to jail because they're hanging out. It's I agree with you, D, that you said we've let this go on for so long that it's going to be a difficult mountain to climb. Yes, it is. I agree with you 100%. But at some point, you're going to have to get a Donald Trump in there, and I say that figuratively, is that you're going to have to get somebody in there that is going to stand up to these thugs and start putting them in their place. And these mayors that defend this type of action should be tarred, feathered, and thrown out of town. Impeach them. Have them arrested. Have charges filed against them for malfeasance of office. I mean, this is their authority. They are the commander-in-chief of their city. And if they can't do the job, then go after them.
Well, here's a prime example of the problem that we have right now. You're familiar with the MS-13, are you?
Yes.
Okay. For those that are not, MS-13 is Mexican drug gang. And right now, they're being targeted for deportation.
And it is dwindling, and it is working.
But there are now groups, and these are not Hispanic groups, that are coming to their defense. There are group and attorneys who are actually coming to their defense.
Then make life difficult for them. Treat them like they do the thugs. I mean, come on. You have to take the bull by the horns and put these people on. Do you think any one of these attorneys wants their head on the chopping block in front of the public?
No, but see, here's the thing, is somehow we have taken people like MS-13, and a certain portion of our population sees them as heroes.
So, go after them.
No, I agree with you totally, Bill, but what I'm saying is that this is the wrong mindset. And
I know, but
the majority of people in this country that know better are either too busy trying to survive or just don't say anything.
Then somehow we have to go after the media to attack these people publicly and make them known to the public. And you take a businessman, a man that owns a business, or you take a man that is a upstanding individual in his community. If he supports this kind of activity, expose him for who he is, and he's supporting.
I agree 100%, but the problem is the media will report on these poor Hispanic immigrant MS-13 people just being deported and how their families are being torn apart, but they won't report on what they do for a living.
This is what I'm saying. This is where we have to go start attacking the media, calling the media out for the fake news that they're putting out there. And you can go on social media all day long and see stories being posted on social media where they will show you the dirt, but as soon as they spit the dirt out, boom, they cut the video. They don't go on to say the rest of the story. And this is what infuriates me about social media and posting this kind of stuff, is that people are only getting part of the story. And same thing with TV and the major media. They're only getting part of the story. They're not getting. And somewhere our FCC director has got to start going after the reporting policies of our major networks.
Well, that in itself right there, and I can just tell you this from past history, that in itself is a great idea, Bill, except it won't happen because the ensuing First Amendment right lawsuit will be tied up in court for years.
Then I understand that. I understand exactly, and I know what you're saying. It ain't going to happen because we don't have enough people to stand up and turn off the TV. Megyn Kelly just lost her show on CNN. What is she on now? CNN?
No, NBC, I think.
NBC, whatever she is. They just canceled her show. She's got 2 shows left in her contract, and they canceled her because her ratings were not up to expectations. So people, you've got to get wise and start turning these people off. Quit listening to their jargon. Quit listening to their bull crap and turn them off. Let their ratings fall. And maybe the networks will get the idea. But see, we are the cause. We are the enablers. We are the ones that pick up on it, and then we repost it to social media and start spreading the same crap. And it's just the whole thing is out of whack. And we have to blame ourselves as much as we blame the actual people that are causing all the problems. It's an insurmountable task. I understand that, and I'm not being a realist. I know that, but there are solutions. Only if we are willing to take those solutions to the next level. And so far, I don't see anybody wanting to take those solutions to the next level. That vast general market is good with the status quo. That being said, we are down to the last 4 minutes of this show, and I want to let this air out and say thank you. Peggy, I appreciate you remaining in the chat box this morning. Well, she's not even there anymore. She's got places to go, things to do. Craig, thanks for being with us this morning. Big D, again, thanks for all your input. Unfortunately, these 2 hours fly by, and they go by way too quickly. And I promise you tomorrow we'll talk about taxes. But boy, one thing just leads into another when it gets to the topics here on BNNS Radio. Someday, somebody's going to pick us up because we tell it like it is. We may be non-realistic on some of our ideas and some of our thinking, but at least we're willing to say it and mean it, and it is a solution only if the public picks up on it. I'm your host, Uncle Bill, or Bill Vallant, also known as Uncle Bill of BNNS Radio, where you can get real-time answers to all your news, weather, sports, right here on BNNS Radio. God bless you. God bless America. God loves you. Always has and always will. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Big D.
All right, this has been another 2 hours of the morning show with Uncle Bill, the guy that knows a lot, sees a lot, and tells you all of it. We'd like to thank Craig, our crack research staff, and me, your co-host, Big D. Remember, your single voice may not make a difference, but combined with everybody else's, it becomes a deafening roar. And the other thing is, get out there, read, educate yourself, make a difference. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Uncle Bill or I, but do it, and do it honestly. Hey, y'all take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, God loves you. So do we. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Craig, for being in there this morning. See you tomorrow. Yep, he didn't hear me. See you all tomorrow.
We're different, yet all the same in this great blessed land. Unite us, don't divide us. Give us thankful hearts again, and bring us all together now, and choose to take a stand. Take pride in home and family, 'cause freedom's never free. It's time, America, to take your stand. Give the people back our voice. And America, America, lift up.
You're listening to Belvidere's Network News and Sports Radio, bringing you the best in Internet radio. That's BNNSradio.com. All day, every day. BNNSradio.com. Stay tuned to BNNS Radio for more great shows like Cop Disclosure, The Morning Show with Uncle Bill, focused on mental health, and the ever-popular Belvidere Sports Huddle and Belvidere City Council. All here on BNNSradio.com and 87.9 on the FM dial. BNNS Radio. Radio